Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video I'll be discussing the ethics of research, and we'll go ahead and get started. So since psychology research involves humans and animals, there are basic rights and ethics that researchers have to uphold when conducting their experiments. The APA created the Ethical Principles of Psychologists and Code of Conduct, which they established guidelines including informed consent, debriefing requirements, including addressing disclosure associated with any deception used in the study, and put in place protections and guidelines for special populations from harm. For human participants, researchers must obtain approval to start a study from the IRB, or the Institutional Review Board. The IRB is a committee of people who are often made up of the institution's administration, community members, or other scientists who review proposals for future research studies. One of the many things that is a requirement to start a study is an informed consent form. This form provides a written description of the study and what participants can expect to happen prior to their participation. The informed consent also includes the risks and benefits of the study, and it states the implications of what the study is trying to achieve and guarantees that any data collected from them will be confidential. And if a participant is under the age of 18, a parent or legal guardian must sign for them. A very important aspect of the informed consent is that it tells the participants that they can withdraw and leave from the study at any time if they feel uncomfortable in any way. The informed consent should also be as honest as possible, but sometimes it is necessary to exclude information from participants so that they don't have demand characteristics coming into the study. So for example, if we were to tell participants that they would be sitting in a lab studying or not studying, they might have demand characteristics to change their natural behavior to study for a test. But if we exclude that information ahead of time and instead say that participants who come into the lab will perform just a general activity, then this eliminates the chance that demand characteristics or other biases occur with our participants. This is called deception, which is misleading participants in order to maintain the integrity of the experiment, but not considered harmful. And if a researcher uses deception in their informed consent, they're required to debrief the participant after the study. And this just includes giving them honest information about what the true intention of the study was about, how their data will be used, and the reasons why a researcher used deception. There are 5 general APA ethical principles that researchers must abide by when conducting research. The first is beneficence and non-malfeasance. Sorry, guys. This includes to benefit and not do harm to people included in research. Researchers strive to protect people's welfare, such as their health and happiness, as well as their rights. If a conflict arises at any time, researchers must resolve that conflict with none to minimal harm inflicted to the person. And researchers should not influence people they are working with for their own personal, financial, social, or political beliefs or gain. Next, we have fidelity and responsibility. This includes establishing relationships of trust between the people that they work with, so either their fellow researchers or the participants. Researchers must uphold professional standards of conduct, and they must be concerned about their colleagues' professional and scientific conduct. So say a lab manager or the main researcher must make sure that their colleagues and other research assistants abide by the ethics. they must be aware of their scientific responsibilities to society and their communities. Next, we have integrity. Integrity includes promoting honesty, accuracy, and the truth in science, in teaching and in the practice of psychology. It also includes not stealing, cheating, or engaging in any fraud. Researchers strive to keep promises and make clear commitments. And in the event of deception, they must maximize their benefits and minimize harm in order to correct any wrongdoing or mistrust between a participant or researcher. The next one is justice. And researchers must exercise fairness and justice to those with access and benefits from contributing in psychological research. And researchers must promote equality in the processes, procedures, and services from psychologists. And then they must take precautions to eliminate any biases that they have or limitations for any unjust practices. And then lastly is a respect for people's rights and dignity. They must respect the dignity and rights of all people who they work with. They must use safeguards to protect the rights and the welfare of people of vulnerable populations. They must be aware and respectful of different members with different cultures regarding age, gender, and other demographics. And they must eliminate biases of these different factors. One example of a study that violated some of the general ethics was the Milgram study. Milgram was influenced to investigate obedience stemming from World War II and Hitler's rise to power and how his followers obeyed him. So he was really interested in how people obeyed authority. He set up a study that recruited participants who thought they were involved in a study about improving memory. The participants were told that they needed to teach other students, called the learners, a series of correct answers to a test. To do this, they used an electrical shocking device that increased in intensity. They were told to shock the learners if they got a wrong answer, but every time they got the right answer, they would increase the amount of shock. But in reality, there were no real learners, but these were trained research assistants who were acting like they were being shocked. And Milgram was interested if the participants would continue to increase the shocks to the fake learners after hearing them scream each time. As you could imagine, this would be really testing the obedience of the participants, believing that they're actually shocking the students who are already in pain. And you may think that these participants refused, but interestingly enough, they didn't at first. They argued with Milgram about not wanting to continue, but Milgram kept telling participants to continue with the test, even though they wanted out. And this is a violation of not using deception right, not having the participants the right to withdraw from the study, and some participants experience psychological harm at first, but after Milgram eventually debriefed them and told them that the persons who were being shocked were not actually being shocked. I'll link a video in the supplemental videos for you to see Milgram's experiment. Another famous study was the Tuskegee syphilis study. The researchers recruited about 600 men, about 400 with syphilis and 200 without, when they tested them, but the researchers told these men that they were testing for bad blood and never told them that they had the disease or not. As you could imagine, this is a big violation of ethics. In exchange, these men would receive free medical care, free meals, and insurance. And the study lasted for 40 years. But the men didn't know they had syphilis, and there was no treatment when the study began, and they weren't allowed to seek treatment at other places. So these researchers weren't really protecting the human rights and beneficence of these people and their health. And many men unknowingly spread syphilis and eventually died, which again is not promoting the ethics that we previously talked about. Regarding animal subjects, so either rodents who are commonly used to test research. In my lab, in my master's program, we use dogs for some of our participants in animal research. Here, one of our research assistants is looking whether dogs smell rattlesnake scents from either their left, right, or both nostrils, and we were coding for how dogs detect threats. But most research is done with rats and mice for animals. They have their own ethics, and it's done by the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, or ICOOC for short. And these guidelines include researchers must acquire, care, use, and dispose of animals in compliance to the specific state, federal, and local laws. They must ensure the animal's comfort, health, and humane treatment as soon as they obtain the animals and when they research the animals. Researchers must be knowledgeable in the care, maintenance, and handling of the specific species. Researchers must make reasonable efforts to reduce discomfort, infection, illness, or pain of these animals. And they must use alternative procedures to reduce any harm, pain, or stress. They must perform surgery through anesthesia. And when an animal's life must be terminated, psychologists must be quick and minimize that pain. And then that's it for Chapter 2. The reminders are just to make sure you read Chapter 2, make sure you finish the Chapter 2 text assignment and learning activity, and then make sure you study for the exam, and let me know if you have any questions regarding the material that I presented, or any questions on the assignments or learning activities. Thanks, guys, and good luck.